Boy, oh boy, do I love playing Airsoft. And while yes, it is true I've spent almost all of my time exclusively playing at my local outdoor field, Panther, recently I've been dabbling some of that time at an alternative field during those rainy days. This field is an indoor field. Since I've been there a good number of times now, I want to talk about what I feel are the interesting differences between outdoor and indoor play. Some things I've noticed, some of my preferences, and maybe just an overall survival guide when deciding which one might be right for you. Right off the bat, personally, both outdoor and indoor fields are great for me. Like I said, my home field is outdoors, and my loyalty lies with them when it's all said and done. But playing at an indoor field is great on those rainy days. This is my #1 reason to go. Of course, I'm trying to get some content every week. Alright, let's jump right into it, and let's start off with environment. Comparing the two here, outdoor fields are going to be much larger. Traditionally, if you're looking for a place to stretch your legs and really go for a run or sprint to an objective, outdoors is your safer option. I find that when I'm playing indoors, I move much slower and methodically, at least more often. I'm checking corners, holding corners, window camping. I know people have different indoor play styles, but I find that most players at my indoor field are taking a more stationary, cross-field engagement style. That's simply because there's less space to run around before finding an enemy player. So while yes, you can sprint into some building 30 feet ahead of you, it's equally as far for the enemy team. Run and gun style for indoor fields is very high risk, high reward, which can be enticing for some players, although it does seem like more than some at times, but for me, not so much. If you decide to play at an outdoor field, there's a good chance you'll be moving around for a much longer period of time before engaging enemy players. This extra space allows for stealthier players to flank, find different untraveled pathways, and also use foliage or camouflage to their advantage. Indoor fields most likely adopt a more urban environment where camo really isn't viable. Chances are it's a bunch of mini buildings or winding hallways taking up most of that space. If players are going to utilize camo, maybe they'll wear clothing that matches the color of structures, like tan and unpainted plywood. Let's move on to gameplay, or the general vibe of outdoor and indoor matches. I might still reference environmental factors here because it's hard to separate these two. I find that based off of several years of playing outdoors, outdoor gameplay is a lot more unpredictable and dynamic. What I mean by that is that it's more common to see different things happen during matches outdoors. There can be multiple flanking routes, the weather can drastically change the look of the field, and therefore players might behave differently. For example, there could be snow, which makes players more stationary or slow moving. Certain pathways might be harder to traverse, and certain camouflage styles can be utilized. So in a season to season or even a week to week basis, I particularly can't predict player behavior as easily. This means I definitely have to use my eyes and ears a little more proactively to go find those kills, and not get killed in many ways. With indoor fields, there's definitely a lot more of a bottlenecking or predictable vibe, which is a bit more unavoidable. All players are, well, walled in and can't just crawl around the bottleneck zone and flank or something. That is, without also running into other players on the other team trying to do the exact same thing. So what you get are typically busy hallways with a lot of foot traffic. The center building is usually always no man's land and just a constant king of the hill situation, which I do admit is a fun feature of indoor fields. Indoor gameplay really just feels like a constant tug of war between choke points. You really don't need to search far and wide for your kill shots because all you really need to do is rush towards those bottlenecked areas. If you don't know what I mean by bottleneck, I'm just referring to those commonly used unavoidable areas of the field that both teams use to travel through or utilize. Typically, this is the middle or outer edges of the indoor field. So, if non-stop action with zero downtime is what you're looking for, indoor takes the cake. I mean, really, Just hunker down somewhere near a common area, and it's really just gonna feel like enemy players just don't stop coming. That being said, you might find yourself getting shot more often as well. Respawns are typically much faster at indoor fields, so eventually your luck is gonna run out and that guy you took out is gonna be back for revenge in about 30 seconds. Now, side note here, bottleneck zones and high intensity players can sometimes be a bad mix. I'm not saying it's more common at indoor fields, but when a high intensity player pops off at an indoor field and disregards courteous engagement distances and maybe even tops it all off with a disgusting rate of fire issue, things might get heated. I've noticed a lot of these stupid airsoft freakout videos tend to take place in tight CQB areas indoors. Hasn't happened during my time spent at my indoor field, but I could take an educated guess that it's happened there before. Outdoor fields, utilizing their extra space, tend to also have a better variety of game modes, or at least a much easier head start in this category. I'm not saying it's a landslide victory though, because indoor fields can get creative and do bomb games, zone capture games, King of the Hill, obviously. However, outdoor fields can do these as well, and any game mode that might require a big space for it to work properly, well, outdoor fields are the only option. For example, last summer I took part in a full field 3-way conflict over a downed plane, which also had capturable vehicles that had drivers capable of switching sides depending on whatever team controlled it at that given moment. There is definitely a limit to the creativity one may have when coming up with a game mode for indoor play. I'm not saying it's impossible, and of course, some indoor fields, mostly in the States, can be pretty damn big, but it's not common. I do find that with my time playing indoors, it all really ends up feeling like a condensed game of team deathmatch with some sort of bonus objective to do somewhere in the middle. I'm not dissing indoor fields, that's just the vibe I get when you put a lot of players in a highly concentrated area. Now, if CQB is your thing and you want to rock a cool SMG, shotgun, or maybe just a flashy pistol, indoor is so amazing for that. I kinda don't see anyone ever using a shotgun at my outdoor field. It's just not viable. The amount of distance you'd need to close in order to use that shotgun outdoors might just get you shot. At indoor fields, clearing corners and hugging the wall really is a cool sensation and probably more adrenaline pumping than just running around outside, where you could technically get pretty good at dodging BBs from far away. What I'm trying to say is, when I'm playing outdoors, I'm a little less nervous about getting shot. Also, indoor CQB pew pew time really allows people to rock those minimalistic, lightweight kits that keep you mobile, quick, and nimble. When it comes to outdoor fields, you're gonna see snipers, DMR players, and probably 90% of everyone else rocking some sort of M4 variation. Sure, there might be some CQB elements to outdoor fields, such as clearing a cabin or bunker, but it's definitely a secondary thought. I do find that a lot of regulars at my outdoor home field are of the over-prepared variety. They got their camo, 8 megs minimum, big gun, backpack, hydration bladder, glow sticks in the daytime. I mean, I get it. Half of Airsoft is looking the part. I'm pretty much super guilty of that here. But what I'm trying to say is, outdoor players usually prepare for those long distance engagements. They rock the scopes and heavier BBs. They aren't specifically trying to close any distances and get up close and personal. Outdoor gameplay is mostly about leveraging your advantage over the enemy. Typically, that advantage is distance, angles, and element of surprise. You won't find much CQB outdoors unless it's around some key objective or structure. Instead, you'll experience more of a herd mentality at work, with clusters of players pushing through trees, trenches, and foliage, closing the distance to reach you with BBs rather than outright evict you from your little bunker. And lastly, let's talk about how these fields typically operate. So every field is different, but typically an outdoor field operates from the morning to, let's say, the late afternoon, or maybe about 5 p.m., just before dinner time when you'd expect things to wind down. So if you're anything like me, an expert night owl, it can be hard to sometimes wake up at 8:30 a.m. on a Saturday, have breakfast, grab my shit, and drive to Airsoft. I mean, if you're playing Helldivers late Friday night, good luck getting off at a reasonable hour, because democracy doesn't rest. Neither should you. Indoor fields, however, can technically operate at any time of day they want. They don't really need sunlight after all. My local indoor field has Airsoft game days Saturday nights and Tuesday nights. And boy, let me tell you, there's something different about playing Airsoft from 7 to 10 p.m. Like, I'm just wired at 7 p.m. I've slept in, had a few meals already, maybe played a little more Democracy Simulator, and boom, I'm at Airsoft later that evening. I've still got a lot of energy by 7 p.m. In fact, way more than I might have at 11 a.m. when the first game starts at my outdoor field. It's kind of hard to explain, but if you ever get the chance to play Airsoft in the evening, it's a very cool sensation for your mind and body. Let's say you exclusively go to the gym in the morning, and then all of a sudden switch to going in the late evening. It's a weird feeling. It feels wrong, but it's also kind of cool. But maybe you love waking up early-ish and starting your day with some Airsoft action. Then you've got the whole rest of the evening to relax at home, or go to indoor Airsoft for round 2. I might have to try that one day. It's not just the hours of operation you should be thinking about either. Outdoor fields probably allow pretty much any type of legal airsoft gun and BB weight, whereas an indoor field like mine only allows BB weights up to 0.25 grams, and FPS or joule limits are probably much lower than what you'd see outdoors, which is obviously a good thing. So be mindful what gun or BB weight you're using or bringing to indoor airsoft. Be prepared to do a little research before showing up to your indoor field. And yes, if you're thinking about it, get a tracer and use tracer BBs. So worth it for indoors. Ultimately, what I can tell you is that both indoor and outdoor fields operate under the umbrella of safety first protocols. Both give you that exhilarating airsoft sensation, and both are absolutely necessary for the growth and survival for airsoft. Some high density populated areas can't really have a big outdoor field, so the indoor business is booming. Meanwhile, here in beautiful British Columbia, there's a decent selection of outdoor options and communities, while also having the indoor option. I'm blessed to have both of these at my fingertips. So, as I close this video, after kind of spieling off to you guys, my question for you is, which type of airsoft field do you prefer? I'd love to know in the comments. Alrighty, Airsofters, that's it for this week. Looks like the sun's here to stay, so you'll find me outdoors pretty damn soon. See you next time.